I actually think that people getting into it right now are more educated and doing it better than they were 5 years ago. My name's Chris Eaton. I was introduced to the reptile hobby in 1998. Started an actual company in 2009. Closed the doors of that company in 2018. And have been doing this stupid dick and fart joke podcast since then.
Long story short, I've had reptiles off and on my whole life, and then something changed in my personal life where I was working out of town, and I came back home where I was going to be at home every day, and I got a genetic stripe ball python, and I was listening to other podcasts at the time, so I put in ball python in a podcast app, and up popped Snakes and the Fat Man and ball shit, and then I started right there, and then my kids introduced me to YouTube. And then once I seen everything that was going on, I was like, wow, this is a lot different than 10, 15 years ago. Like, this is cool. And so I just went all in.
Making reptiles a business is kind of a dumb thing, right? Like, could you imagine if instead of reptiles, you had a panda, right? And the panda cost you 500 grand. And then the panda decided not to breed, okay? For that first year or two, you're sitting on 500 grand. And that's what reptile people do, and most reptile people don't know how long 2 years is to get a female up to breeding size. And everybody buys babies because everybody thinks that the babies are the prettiest, and realize that they turn out to be brown pieces of shit fucking 99% of the time. And they've spent that money and they can't sell the offspring from that. Because first of all, if you buy an animal for 20 grand, by the time you breed that animal 2.5, 3 years later, it's you're going to be able to get 5 grand for it because there's going to be so many of them out there. That's the way people lose money at this, and also growing too fast. They buy 100 snakes and think they're going to make a killing on it when they should really buy 3 snakes. I actually think that people getting into it right now are more educated and doing it better than they were 5 years ago. We used to buy a bunch of single gene shit, okay? If there was 11 lessers for sale, we would buy all 11 lessers, okay? But that was back in 2012 when, like it was cool to have a lesser. But now, for the amount of money that we spent, I think we put around 250 grand into the business initially. We had 300 snakes right off the bat. I would have rather had 10 snakes and spent the same amount of money, and at least we would have made that back quicker. Because if let's say you buy a snake for 10,000, then when you breed it, you could sell the babies for 2,000. If you could sell 10 of those, it's no problem. And back when we were starting up, it was easy to sell the $2,000 to $5,000 animal. It was even easy to sell the $300 animal. What became difficult was sort of like we went into a couple of ball python recessions, just like we're going through now, and we couldn't sell those $300 animals, and the $2,000 animals were dropping in price so rapidly and so quickly that you can't make your money back, because every dime that you make, you're gambling, putting into something new that you may like, but you're not going to be able to sell it. Half the people that started during COVID are selling their collections now, and now is probably a good time to buy, because you could get a $2,000 animal for $600. And if you want to kind of up your game a little bit, buy those animals, and once the recession is gone, and which is normally it lasts about a year or so, then at least you're making something that people want.
Do some research about all the different projects. That's a mistake I made. I was in too many projects for a while. So decide what projects you're going to work, and definitely buy the most you can afford, like in a few snakes. It's said a lot, but like if you got 10 grand, buy 2 snakes, instead of buying 20. of some lower level in the project. Go big. They need to have a good social media presence and network. Networking has been like key for me. Like network in your local areas, network, nationwide, globally, whatever, but get out and do a lot of social media and a lot of networking.
However, there's all this toxic positivity that's going around, and nobody is saying or admitting that people are doing things wrong because they're too busy buddying up to each other. How long do you think that's going to last before somebody just fucks somebody and the whole hobby goes back to what it was about 5 years ago, which is, I'll stab your mother if I could get an extra $20. And shows today, basically all it is the breeders hanging out, getting drunk, not caring if they sell anything. And I kind of almost miss the 5 to 8 year ago show where people actually gave a shit about whether they were making money or not. Nowadays, it just seems like, people go to these shows to party with their friends. And that's cool. I'm not saying you can't party with your friends. But what I am saying is that if you spend $1,200 on a show and then you come home with $200 that you made on that show is not worth it. So you're better off spending 2 days on Morph Market trying to hawk your wares there and actually make some money after 2 days.